All right, we are doing section 3.7. You can do the first one. Do the first one on the warm-up on your own. So you can pause it and do that one. I'll do the second one with you. So for this one, you just have two equal fractions. So you're going to cross multiply. But be careful because on the top of the first fraction you have two terms. So these two terms have to stay grouped together. So that gives you 4 and then parentheses x plus 1 and then equals, because you always set the cross products equal to each other, 3 times 8, which is 24. Since the x plus 1 was grouped together, you have to distribute here, giving you 4x plus 4 equals 24, and then you're just solving like normal from here. So you're going to subtract the 4 from both sides, so 4x equals 20, and then the last step is to divide by 4, so x equals 5. Okay, so it's just cross multiplication, but you just have to be careful. If there's more than one term on the top somewhere, you have to distribute. Okay, again, do number 1 on your own, and then we'll move on. So 3.7, what we're doing is we're still solving equations, but we're solving equations that have more than one variable in them. So if you have more than one variable in an equation, you can solve for a specific variable. You have to be told which variable you want to get by itself, and your answers are going to look different. Your answers are going to be, no, they're not just going to be a single number anymore. They're going to have variables in them. So they look a little different, but the process is the same, okay? So what I need you to do is I need you to make sure that you highlight the variable you want to solve for before you do anything else, because there's going to be several variables in your equation, and I want to make sure you understand which one you're solving for. So always highlight the one you're going to solve for. Move anything that has that variable to the same side. So if you see the one you want to solve for in multiple places, you need to get it all together first. And then you solve for it just like you would normally, but just be careful that your answers are going to have other variables in them. They're not just going to be a single number. They're going to be variables and numbers together. Okay? If you need to pause it to fill in some blanks, you can do that, and then we'll move on. So if we're looking at number 1 here, it says solve for y. If you look, you have a lot of different, you've got two different variables. You have x and y. They told us to solve for y, so I'm going to highlight the y. Right now, the y is not by itself. There's a lot of things over here on the same side of the equal sign as the y. The -4 is attached to the y, which means it's going to be the last thing that we move, just like solving normally. This whole term, 3x, needs to be moved to the other side. I don't want any of that. So make sure you're being careful. The 3x itself, the 3x is positive because there's no sign in front here. So to move a positive 3x, you are going to subtract it. So subtract 3x from both sides of your equal sign. On the left, the 3x cancels, and you are dropping down a -4y. Do not lose that negative. Equals. On the right, 7 and 3x are not like terms, so we can't put them together. We're just going to write them in a line, just 7 minus 3x. If I can't put them together, I just write them out. I am still trying to solve for y, and y is not by itself. When I read that equation, y equals is not the first thing I say. If it's not the first thing I say, then I'm not done. I have to be able to say y equals. This says -4y equals. So what I have to do is get rid of this -4. The -4 is multiplying the y. The opposite of multiplying by -4 is dividing by -4. So both sides of my equal sign have to be divided by -4. Be careful on the right, the entire thing gets divided, not just one piece or the other. Both pieces all at once get divided by -4. On the left, my -4's cancel, and I'm just left with y equals, which is what I want. On the right, you just have to be careful because it's not proper to leave a negative on the bottom of a fraction. We don't want this here. So it's okay, we can transfer it to the top, but you just have to be careful when you transfer a negative to the top. it has to go to any term that's up there. So that negative is actually going to go to the 7 and to the 3x. So it's just going to change the signs of both of those numbers. So if I'm moving the negative up top, the 7 is now negative 7. The 3x is now a plus 3x. And then that leaves me with a positive 4 on the bottom, which was what I needed, okay? We don't want to leave a negative on the bottom. That's not always going to have to be done. But if you end up with a negative on the bottom, you need to make sure you transfer that negative up to any term on top. Okay? And that's your answer. It doesn't look super pretty, but that's it. It has a variable in it as well, but the y is by itself, and it says y equals. If we jump on over to number 2, it says we're solving for b. So then we highlight the b. Always highlight the variable you're trying to solve for. Luckily, I only see it in one place. Okay, I do not see b's in multiple places, so I can just start by moving things away from the b. I do not want to move the 7 yet. That's directly attached. I have to move anything that's not directly attached first, so I'm going to move this minus x by adding it. When I go to move it to the right, I notice it's going to match my 3x, so I'm just going to put it directly under there so that I know they're together. On the left, the x's are gone, and I'm left with a positive 7b equals. On the right, my x and my 3x are alike, so I put them together. So 3x plus x is 4x. I still have a plus 2 at the end. My b is not by itself yet. I'm not saying b equals. I'm saying 7b equals. So now I have to divide by 7. On the right, it all gets divided. Gone on the left, b equals. I do not have a negative on the bottom this time, or a fraction on the bottom, which is something else I don't want. So that's just going to end up being my answer, 4x plus 2 all over 7. And then you're done, because you got b by itself. All right, number 3. This one's a little trickier because there is a fraction. So we're being asked to solve for a, so I'm going to highlight a. It is going to be easier if I can just get rid of the fraction right off the bat. If you remember, the way we get rid of fractions is to multiply by the denominator. So the denominator of my fraction is 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 2. On the left, 2 times s is just 2s equals. On the right, the 2's cancel. So it leaves me with 1, because that was my top, a t squared. When 1 is my coefficient, when 1 is the number in front of the variables, I don't have to have it, so I'm just going to get rid of it. If it was something else, like a 3 or a 7 or something, I would keep it, but I don't have to have a 1. All right, then I go and I have a t squared. I'm trying to get the a by itself. A is currently being multiplied by t squared, so I have to undo that. The opposite of multiplying by t squared is dividing by t squared. So on both sides, I divide by t squared. There isn't anything I can do to simplify it on the left, so it's just going to be 2s divided by t squared equals. On the right, the t squareds cancel, and you're just left with a, which is all I needed. And then you're done. You don't have any negatives or fractions on the bottom, so that's it. All right, for 4, 5, and 6, you can go ahead and pause it and do these 3 on your own. And then we will go ahead and finish these 3, okay? So 4, 5, and 6 on your own, pause it, and then we'll do 7, 8, and 9. So for 7, we're solving for z. There's only a z in one place, so I just have to start moving things away from it. The 2 is directly attached, so it's the last thing I'm going to move. So I have to move the c first. I move the c by subtracting it because it's being added. So I subtract it from both sides. On the left, I do not have anything else with c's, so it's actually just going to get tacked onto the back. So 4x plus b minus c, just all in a line, equals 2z on the right. I'm still trying to get z by itself, and it's still being multiplied by 2, so I have to undo that. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. Everything on this side gets to be over 2. Okay? And it's not a negative on the bottom or a fraction. So that's just going to be my answer. 4x plus b minus c all over 2. And then that got the z by itself on the left, or on the right. And we're done. Number 8, we have another fraction. It's kind of a little different than the other fraction, but I still don't want this fraction. So no matter what, I'm going to clear it. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 to start with, no matter what I'm solving for. The 3's cancel on the left, and the top drops down, so y plus a equals. On the right, I'm multiplying c and 3, which gives me 3c. Now I got rid of the fraction, so now I can focus on what I want to solve for. I'm solving for y. Right now, y is just being added to a, so all I have to do is subtract the a. And then I get y equals 3c and a are not like terms, so I just write 3c minus a. And then I'm done. All right, 9 is tricky. My first reaction is to distribute because I see parentheses. A times b is ab plus a times c is ac. Here's the problem. If I was trying to solve for b or c, that would be great. I could distribute and I would be okay. But I'm not. I'm trying to solve for a. And when I distributed it, I did just that. I took my a and I put it in multiple places. That's what distribute means. But now I've made it impossible for myself to solve it because now I have a in 2 places instead of 1. So I don't want to ever distribute the variable I'm trying to solve for. So I kind of have to go back to square one and see what's going on. Distribution is multiplication. Okay, so a is being multiplied by b plus c. So if it's being multiplied by b plus c, I just need to do the opposite of that, and I need to divide by b plus c. Divide by b plus c on both sides. On the left, I don't have to have the parentheses on the bottom because they aren't really doing anything. So it's just p over b plus c. You can have parentheses on the bottom if you want, but you don't have to have them. On the right, the b plus c's just cancel, and I'm left with a. And it was relatively simple once I realized that I didn't want to distribute. I just needed to divide by the whole chunk all at one time. Okay, you are going to do your worksheet 3-7 and let me know if you have any questions.